What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to talk to you about another horror movie that I watched recently. Today, it's 30 Days of Night. This is a movie directed by David Slade, who is a director I am not super familiar with. The only things I know about him is he did one of the Twilight movies, I think, and he almost did a Daredevil movie a few years ago. But this movie has Melissa George, Josh Hartnett. It has the guy who played Flass in Batman Begins. I don't know that actor's name. He was probably in Sons of Anarchy. It has the guy who played Slade in Arrow, and Danny Houston is in it. He plays one of the vampires. And the premise of this, I guess a little backstory first, probably not too important, but apparently Steve Niles created this concept of vampires that attack this town in Alaska where it's nighttime for 30 days. He created this concept as a pitch for a movie, and not a single movie studio was interested in this idea. So then he turns it into a comic book, and then suddenly all the studios that turned him down are saying, hey, we'd like to turn that into a movie. And so then I guess he had his choice of who he could work with and what studio he would work with. So he is a collaborator. Steve Niles is a collaborator on this movie. I'm not sure how different this is from the comics. I have not read any of the 30 Days of Night comics. I did read that the comic is a little different than this, but I haven't read it, so I can't speak to that. But basically, there's this town in Alaska, Barrow. It really exists. And in this movie, they say, okay, it's the last day of sunlight, and then about 4/5 of the population, they leave, and they intend to come back to Barrow after sunlight comes back, because when you get so far north, there's more nighttime than there is daytime, and there's a period of time in Barrow where basically the sunlight is gone. It is a little different in real life than it is in this movie. In this movie, it is like pitch black. If it wasn't for the street lamps, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, kind of dark. And as I understand it, in real life, it isn't quite like that. There is a little bit of dusk where the sun isn't rising over the horizon, but it is a little lighter than like midnight darkness, which is portrayed in this movie. And this is one of those things where they have to kind of play with reality a little bit to make the premise work, because if the dusk came up, that would probably make the vampires have to retreat. And I don't know if I said this, but then some vampires, they attack this town because they have 30 days where they can basically have free reign to do whatever they want, and they don't have to hide during the daytime. And they have this guy played by Ben Foster. He was in X-Men The Last Stand, the 3:10 to Yuma remake, and he was also in the 2004 Punisher movie. I really like that actor. I think he's a really good actor. He's good at playing different kinds of roles. But he is basically the Renfield equivalent. Renfield from the Bram Stoker Dracula. He is the human thrall who is serving the vampire, or in this case vampires, and he wants them to turn him into one of them. And this movie, I guess I'm trying to avoid talking about it. It's not very good. I don't know if there's a fan base for this film, but the biggest problem I have with this movie is the vampires. They look really cool. I will say that. The design here is really interesting. These creatures look more like rodents than they do human beings, almost. I don't know if they've got prosthetics. They do have very scary looking teeth, and they all have like blood all over their faces. This is not like Bela Lugosi, he feeds on somebody and then he pulls away and there's no blood on him. These guys are just about covered in blood. Their eyes are completely dark, but then some of them, I don't know if this is just they found some people where it's like, that guy looks like he could play a vampire, but some of them, it looks like they did prosthetics on like their chins and noses to make their faces look sharper. So they don't look as human as a lot of vampire portrayals. So I really like the designs of the vampires from the neck up. The big problem I have here is that these vampires speak in some ancient dead vampire language with each other. It's a language I think this movie made up, or maybe it's Latin, I don't know, but it hints that these vampires are like a couple of thousand years old, because they are speaking this language that nobody else knows. But then they're all wearing like business suits, like a suit and tie. They're wearing clothes that weren't invented until the 20th century, and it's just really weird to me that they're wearing modern day human clothes, but then they're also speaking in this ancient vampire language of the bat, and that just doesn't work for me. I would have rather these vampires actually speak English. I think that we could have gotten a little bit more of a menacing portrayal of them if we could see, like, Danny Houston kind of taunting Josh Hartnett a little bit in English. I think that would have worked a little better. Unfortunately, this movie entirely relies on the look of the vampires. And like I said, from the neck up, they look great. But then you see what they're wearing, and it's like, oh, this is like Dave, who works at the office, and then he got turned into a vampire. And it's even weirder because there are several characters who get turned into vampires in the town, and they speak English. So it makes it seem like these vampires who are attacking are really old, and they don't even know English. I'm not sure. But anyway, the big problem I have with this movie, other than that, is that once the vampires attack, all the humans, or a lot of them, they hide away in one building, and then it's just a whole lot of, well, what are we going to do? And there's several characters who are hiding that we know absolutely nothing about. Because the first, 4 or 5 scenes of the movie are Josh Hartnett. He is playing the Harry S. Truman-esque sheriff of this small town. He is investigating all these weird things, like somebody destroyed this one guy's helicopter, somebody killed all of the sled dogs, and somebody stole all of the satellite phones in town and burned them. Why would they do this? And it's just, each scene is Josh Hartnett saying, that's really weird. And then the vampires attack once daylight is gone for 30 days. And then we have about 10 characters who are hiding away in this one building, and most of them we know absolutely nothing about. We know that Josh Hartnett is the sheriff. One of them is his either ex-girlfriend or ex-wife. They keep talking about how these two broke up and they're not together anymore, but I don't remember if they ever said that they were married or just dating. But she's stuck here, and then his younger brother is here, and then there's a whole bunch of other nobodies that we know absolutely nothing about. There's one girl, she almost had a threesome with a couple of her coworkers. That's all we know about her. I don't even think we know her name. There's this one guy, his dad has dementia, and so he's trying to keep his dad from going out when the vampires are attacking, but we don't know anything about him. We barely know anything about Josh Hartnett and Melissa George, other than they dated. This movie does not bother trying to let us get to know these characters. And so when these characters are in danger, it's hard for me to care because I know nothing about them. They are all less than one-dimensional. One-dimensional would make it sound like they at least have a dimension, and they don't. And then also, in this middle chunk of the movie, there are 3 or 4 scenes that you could take out and rearrange, and it wouldn't really change the flow of the movie. There's just a whole lot of very episodic scenes where something happens, and then, oh man, those vampires are still out there. And then something else happens. Oh man, those vampires are still out there. There is one scene where the old man, he manages to escape, and then his son goes after him. And then there's another scene where there's this woman. She is roaming the streets screaming for help, and the vampires are hiding in the shadows because they want to see if anyone will come out to help her, and then they're using her as bait. And then there's another scene where they go to the supermarket to try and get some more supplies. You could take each of those scenes, put them in any order, and it wouldn't change this movie at all. It feels like a bunch of little episodes that are all strung together into a 2-hour movie. It does not feel like it has a structure like a real movie. And part of that might be because it's based on a comic book, and a comic book is episodic. You'll have a 22-page issue, and then another 22-page issue. This does not feel like a movie. It feels like a bunch of little things that are happening. And part of this is because we know, okay, they just have to wait until sunlight comes back, and then every now and then you'll see day 18 or something like that. And so these guys are basically just trying to wait it out, and that's really boring to watch. A boring protagonist who doesn't do anything, what I should have said, an inactive protagonist who doesn't do anything is a boring protagonist. And these guys, they are taking action trying to survive, but they're not really taking the action to the vampires until closer to the end of the movie. And then, I won't spoil the end just in case you are interested in watching this movie, but it does end in kind of an interesting way. I just wish that the previous hour hour and a half of the movie was a little better. Unfortunately, I really did not enjoy watching this movie. I had seen it a long time ago, and then much more recently, I tried watching it for free on Amazon Prime, and I thought, okay, I actually stopped watching it when I was on Amazon Prime. I said, this is stupid, I hate it. And then I thought, okay, maybe I was just in the wrong frame of mind. Maybe I would enjoy it if I waited a little bit and tried watching it again. So I saw it somewhere for $1. I bought it, and I thought, okay, this time, maybe I'm really going to enjoy it. And I gave it a chance, and no, I do not like this movie. I don't think it's very good. I don't know what the consensus is on it, but I think that it's pretty bad. So those are my thoughts on 30 Days of Night. I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, I will see you guys in the future with some other videos. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.